So Tom, I would love to hear your take on Middle East. I mean, we're seeing a lot of movements right now. Iran with Syria, so Saudi Arabia kind of like getting apart from US, doing agreements with other China, helping them to, have peace agreements with like Iran. I mean, I would love to see how that would affect this whole mesh, I would say.
Yeah, I look at the Middle East as sort of this great free agent that's sitting out there. They'll sort of do business with anybody. They have their own sort of independent wealth to be relatively immune from, general pressure. They have been very instrumental in China as they've reemerged from COVID on the energy supply issues. There's, I do see a, sadly predictable moving away from the reform environment. The Khashoggi moment sort of had a lot of pressure and focus. I think a lot of that has faded. I see more and more companies now opening up in Saudi Arabia. The original hope was that would, change the way things happen there. It seems like it's more business as usual. We're hoping to see, more liberal reform, but it's very slow in coming. I think that there is a great potential as people are leaving Russia and sort of that Ukraine, sort of geosphere, that a lot of people are looking at that region to relocate operations and supply chain. It's got more wealth and attracts more than what Africa and other places can do. I've had a lot of companies who have inquired about what's the landscape like there, and they're seeing a lot of significant offers. They are seeing an opportunity as China has gotten difficult for R&D for U.S. companies. They're trying to become more of an R&D oriented set of economies through there. And they have the money and resources to do that in terms of reshaping their own economy. And, they continue to, I think, play a smart game with respect to, Middle East policy, especially around Israel. They have not escalated, tension. They have been moving toward, at least the motions of, peaceful coexistence. The China entry into all of that is really interesting in terms of being a broker. But, it's just a bit of realignment. It is a bit more of what I think is the sovereigns are acting more independently. They're picking their partners, a little bit more actively. And, they're managing to avoid, the kind of focus and pressure to really reform in the way that the West would like to see. And I see that kind of just being persistent. I don't see a huge transformation. But I do think that it has, cooled down in the region, and that even includes Iran. I think Iran is, really weary from the sanctions. I've talked to a fair number of people that, interact with, the various officials in Iran who say, there's a weariness, there's a lack of appetite to go and have conflict, that they're suffering their own economy and government treasury is low. So it really has de-escalated, I think, that is sort of a geopolitical hotspot, as much as it can be. But I just think all those things are, emblematic of what we've been talking about, this big morass the world is in with inflation and economic pressure and some of the conflicts that are taking the air out of the balloon. And, one point that I would also make is, I am really concerned with what if we do throw ourselves into a recession or we have another COVID-like event, governments have thrown the kitchen sink at everything. There's not a lot of left in the cupboard, in terms of, debt, borrowing, money to go deal with something like what we just went through. And that's really scary. What does the world look like when, we don't have a lot more levers at our disposal or resources to solve, really, earth-changing sort of events?